Imagine the first light of dawn painting the jagged peaks of the Virunga Mountains in eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. Below, verdant forests hide ancient guerrilla trails and vast veins of minerals, coltan, tin, gold, whose value has drawn outsiders for decades. Yet today the real gravity isn't beneath the ground, but in the words that have gone unspoken for weeks in a conference room halfway around the world, Doha. As we step into this story, we face a stalled peace process with the M23 rebel movement, an impasse that threatens to plunge this fertile region back into the darkness of armed conflict. In the displacement camps of Goma, children play near tents patched with plastic sheeting. Their laughter masks a deeper anxiety. "Every night we hear the distant rumble of heavy guns," says Marie, a 32-year-old mother of 4. "We were told peace was coming. Now no one knows what tomorrow brings." These communities have endured 5 years of intermittent fighting. Families uprooted, crops burned, health clinics shuttered. Their lives hinge on promises made in the Qatari capital, promises with deadlines that have quietly slipped away. To understand today's deadlock, we must rewind to 2012. Disillusioned members of the National Congress for the Defense of the People, CNDP, citing unfulfilled security guarantees, rose up and formed M23, the March 23rd movement. They seized key towns, at times drawing fire from neighboring Rwanda, which Kinshasa accuses of arming the rebels, a claim Kigali denies. Ceasefires collapsed under mutual suspicion. A decade of partial agreements has left a lasting legacy. Multiple armed groups, each with its own agenda, jostling for territory and mining profits. Fast forward to mid-2025. Under Qatari mediation, negotiators from Kinshasa and M23 convened in Doha. On July 19th, they signed a Declaration of Principles, a roadmap with 3 critical benchmarks. 1. A mutual ceasefire and prisoner exchange. 2. M23's phased withdrawal from occupied territories. 3. Restoration of state authority and a joint commission on political integration. Optimists hailed this as the closest the warring sides had come to peace. International donors promised reconstruction funds. Local radio stations declared countdowns. But beneath the fanfare, deep mistrust lingered. The declaration set clear dates. Formal talks to start by August 8th, a final accord by August 18th. As the first deadline approached, envoys from Kinshasa landed in Doha carrying draft texts. M23 delegates arrived a day late, citing logistical delays. Headlines spoke of minor setbacks, but analysts saw bigger warning signs: footnotes missing, ambiguous clauses on troop integration, and no mechanism for third-party verification. Time, rather than healing wounds, began exposing open scabs. At the heart of the impasse lie 4 intractable issues. Withdrawal guarantees. Kinshasa demands unconditional pullback. M23 insists on written security guarantees before vacating strategic positions. Prisoner exchanges. Rebels want immediate release of fighters. The government fears setting a precedent for armed groups to use detentions as bargaining chips. External sponsors. Kinshasa accuses Rwanda of covert support, backed by UN panel findings, while M23 claims neutrality, insisting its cause is purely Congolese. Inclusive dialogue. Smaller Congolese militias and civil society leaders warn they were excluded from discussions, threatening any agreement's legitimacy. Past ceasefires collapsed with brutal speed. In 2023, violations sparked the displacement of over 1.2 million people in just 3 months. Women and girls face skyrocketing rates of sexual violence. Malnutrition surged among young children. As talks languish, aid agencies on the ground brace for a fresh humanitarian crisis. Médecins Sans Frontières reports that their existing clinics, already overstretched, could neither absorb new casualties nor treat the chronic illnesses that resurge amid conflict. This is not simply a local conflict. Regional powers, Rwanda, Uganda, and even Burundi, watch closely. Kigali views M23 as a buffer against Hutu extremist groups lurking across the border. Kampala fears a refugee influx. South Africa's president recently warned that renewed fighting would destabilize the entire Great Lakes region. International actors, China, whose firms invest in DRC's mines, and the United States, keen to counter growing Chinese influence, each carry their own diplomatic weight in Doha's halls. Why Doha? Why does a conflict rooted in Central Africa turn to Qatar for mediation? Doha's diplomatic strategy, since the early 2000s, has been to position itself as an impartial broker. Host to talks spanning Syria, Sudan, and now the DRC. Qatar offers logistical support, security, and a neutral setting far from the Congo's ground-level grudges. But neutrality can breed disengagement. Negotiators eat the same catered meals and sleep in the same luxury hotels, often detached from the daily horrors facing displaced Congolese. Stalled negotiations follow predictable rhythms. First, mutual optimism. Then, minor skirmishes are downplayed. Next, red lines get drawn in formal communiques. Finally, deadlines pass with both sides blaming the other for intransigence. In Doha, M23 delegates now cite unmet security assurances. Kinshasa points to rebel attacks on civilian positions that allegedly continued even after the July declaration. Each camp claims to be the injured party, each claim bolstering its negotiating leverage. As August fades into September, three trajectories emerge. 1. Reinvigorated talks. Under regional pressure, both sides may retreat from maximalist demands and return to the table with fresh compromise language, perhaps aided by African Union or SADC monitors. 2. Frozen frontlines. A temporary lull might hold, with M23 maintaining its advances and government troops dug in. Skirmishes flare, but no full-scale conflict erupts, leaving civilians in a limbo of fear. 3. Full-scale resumption of war. If Doha collapses, M23 could push further toward Goma or Bukavu, compelling Kinshasa to muster regional or even UN support, risking a broader conflagration. Pathways back to peace. Breaking the stalemate demands innovation. Third-party monitoring. Deploy UN peacekeepers or African Union observers to oversee ceasefire zones and verify withdrawal. Inclusive forums. Expand negotiators to include militia commanders, civil society, women's groups, and local elders, voices historically ignored. Economic incentives. Link peace to tangible benefits. Revenue-sharing agreements for mining royalties, reintegration funds for ex-combatants, and redevelopment projects in liberated towns. Regional guarantees. Have SADC and East African communities sign off on any agreement, with clear enforcement protocols for cross-border violations. International donors must pair diplomatic pressure with material support, fund reconstruction, bolster civilian protection units, and assist Congolese civil society organizations. Meanwhile, local journalists, storytellers, and content creators have a critical role. Keep the world's eyes on Eastern DRC, humanize the crisis, and hold negotiators accountable. As a media producer yourself, you can amplify displaced voices, trace shifting frontlines through maps and interviews, and translate technical jargon into Swahili and English that resonates with regional audiences. Back in the camps outside Goma, Marie holds her youngest child and stares toward the horizon. "We want peace," she says. "We've forgotten what life without fear feels like." The stalled talks in Doha are more than diplomatic footwork. They represent a crossroads for millions who cling to hope. As negotiators prepare to reconvene or walk away, the real question remains: Can words on paper yet save a people who have known war as their only constant? Only the next pages of this negotiation will tell.